Welcome everyone to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power, along with Javi the Commish, as always. We are doing a playoff episode for everyone watching today. So if you need any playoff help, here's the right place for you guys. See you in a few. All right, welcome back. Javi, we missed you last week, man. Glad you could be here today.
I'm good, bro. I know I've been MIA a little bit. Usually around these 2 months, it's very busy. I have 3 birthdays, so it's kind of hectic.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
Family
That's a
stuff,
little rough. Yeah, life happens. I get it. But we
Yeah,
are in fantasy playoffs right now, so hopefully we can spread some knowledge out there and help people win their league. Before we get into the waiver wire and two-star pitchers, I do want to go over some news and notes and injuries. So Julio Rodriguez reached 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. And we talked about last week how he's the first player in MLB
yep.
history to actually get 25-25 in his first two seasons, his freshman season and sophomore season. Now the 30-30, man, I think this dude's legit. I think that he could possibly be like, you know, close to the level of Ronald Acuna. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the fact that he's done it in his first 2 seasons it's freaking crazy, man. And you always talk about like what was that, the man strength years? He's not
Yeah,
even there
man.
yet. I mean,
He's
you can
so
only
young,
imagine,
dude. He's so young.
how far he can go, bro. It's so crazy. Hopefully they can put some pieces around him, so Seattle can be some kind of contender. It'd be pretty cool to see him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, good for him, dude. That's exciting for baseball.
We got a comment. Jose Velasquez says, "What up, cuz?" So what's up,
What
Jose? Glad you
up?
can join the show. If you want to put anything out there, let's see. I feel like J Rod is more of a second half player. It felt like he was MIA during the first half. Yeah, I feel like there's a somewhat of a sophomore slump. I really believe that is real. They come off of like a high. Coming off of their rookie season. Julio Rodriguez. Just off of his rookie of the year, and
Home run
going into
derby,
his
bro.
home run derby, yeah, all
Hmm.
star. So there's a lot of pressure on a player like that, a very young player like that. But um, he was a second half player this season for sure. But I think going forward, I think that Julio Rodriguez is going to be exactly who he is. The whole season. Every single player has ups and downs. Some of them are more prevalent than others, but I think Julio Rodriguez. I don't think we really have to worry too much about this guy. It could have just been jitters, the yips, whatever it was in the first half, but this guy is looking like a legit power hitter and with some legit speed also. So I'm really
Or
liking Julio Rodriguez.
very
Um,
exciting.
all right, Matt Olson. I did these notes a couple days ago, so I don't know if he has hit another one since then, but he did reach the 50 home run mark, and he is leading the league in home runs right now. Looks like Otani is not going to catch up to him. He was second behind Matt Olson, but Pete Alonso could get hot at any moment, and that could be a home run race, a legit home run race to see who finishes on top. Honestly, I think it's Olson. And let's see, Jose Velasquez is saying that he has 52 home runs. Dude, this guy just won't stop hitting home runs, man. What do we
Yo,
have?
but
Like
but did you
18
did you
games left?
think that did you think that he was gonna hit this many home runs at the beginning of the season?
No,
Honestly,
no, not at
hell
all.
no, bro.
I
You
thought he
know,
was going to be like 40, maybe like I would say overshooting would be like 44. I never thought that he would be able to get 50 home runs. He has
Yeah,
such a weird
exactly.
swing, man. The way that he holds the
Yeah.
bat, like out in front of him, it's crazy that he can actually make the kind of contact that he does, you know.
Yep.
But hitting is contagious, and the Braves have not stopped hitting all season long, dude. From the top of the
Yep.
lineup all the way down to the bottom, and he's right there, right in the middle of it, dude. So
Yep.
hitting is contagious, and he definitely caught what the Braves have given him. He wasn't like
Bro,
this in Oakland.
they're reminding me of like the Atlanta Braves dynasty back in the day with Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. Oh my God, bro. Like, and these guys are young. They're young, they're hungry. This team is
Yeah.
gonna be really hard to beat, man.
See, and I think the slightly biggest difference right there is that the new Atlanta Braves are all about their batting with some decent pitching,
Yeah.
whereas the Braves in the '90s were all about their pitching with some decent batters.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but dude, all
Chipper. Oh yeah.
like I
Chipper was
said,
the shit.
from the top of the lineup to the bottom, it's just the Braves cannot be stopped, man. They have Ronald Acuna, who could potentially be the first player ever to get to 40 home runs and 80 stolen bases. And I mean that's shooting kind of high, but it's definitely a possibility.
So
It,
unheard
it,
of, man.
it's
That's
crazy,
crazy.
man. Jose Velasquez says, "Oh yeah, Chipper Jones and them, yeah." Back in the '90s, man, it was all about the Braves. I remember, you know, I grew up a Dodgers fan, but I remember if I turned on TBS, it was always a Braves game, and a lot of times
Braves.
I
Yep.
wasn't, I
Always.
wasn't able to watch the Dodgers game because whatever the reason may be, it was on too late or whatever. But the Braves game, I just put on channel 17, and it was always on. There was always commercials about them, and
Yep.
so much hype about him, and I feel like baseball, they're not putting enough emphasis on the Braves. The Braves are an exciting,
Yeah.
really young team right now, led by Strider, Spencer Strider, who he's been struggling a little bit this season when it comes to home runs and not limiting the runs. He has a pretty high ERA. It's close to 4. It's like 3.78 or something like that. But the strikeouts are there. The innings are there. So I think when push comes to shove in the playoffs, he's going to show up. Along with hopefully we can see Charlie Morton pitch like we've seen in the past, like when he was with the Astros a few seasons ago, and they're looking really good, man. Their
Yeah.
pitching really needs to stay healthy. That is the key, and it's not just the key for the Braves, but it's for every single MLB team. All right, so moving on. Ohtani stuck at 44 home runs after missing what was it, like more than 10 games now. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see him finish out the season strong.
They
Trey
should just shut
Turner,
him down. They should just shut him down. I
yeah,
mean, at this
the
point, I
Angels,
mean,
the Angels aren't going to be doing anything. They're not going to the playoffs. So I did hear a lot of buzz about possibly trading Mike Trout. I don't
yeah,
really,
I heard about
I don't
that.
know what they could really get for him though, because is he the best player of our generation? Not really anymore. I believe that goes to Ronald
Mm,
Acuna. But once upon a time, Mike Trout was the best player of this generation. And the
yeah,
problem is he just can't stay healthy. It's always something. It's always his
yeah,
back or his leg or his ankle or big toe or, something. It's always something with Mike Trout. And
yeah,
that is the problem because he was supposed to be, this like crazy, amazing player, which he is, but that's when he's healthy. He went on the IL, what was it, like 3 or 4 times this season? He's
yeah,
he's on the wrong side of 30. I don't really know what the Angels could really get for him if he is offered up in a trade, and who would really want him unless he agrees to be just a permanent DH and just not
yeah,
field. I think that's the
yeah.
only way that he could actually potentially stay healthy. He needs to stay
Right.
off the field, man. And I get it. The Gold Glove center fielder making, robbing home runs and making diving plays and just he has a cannon, throwing out people at third, but
Well, how many
it's
seasons has he been in the league?
I think he came up when he was 22 and I think he's 31 now. So I think 10 seasons. 10 seasons
Holy
he's been with
shit.
the Angels.
God, it feels like he's been in here forever, bro. Oh my
I
God.
know. He's been around for a really long
Yeah.
time. And,
But
you
you
know,
know what though? But for a good portion of his career though, he was always healthy. It's just
yeah.
he hit a certain age and then it just kind of started falling apart for him.
Yeah, it's been like the last like 3 years now, 3 seasons
Yeah.
now, in addition to this one. So actually 4 seasons now. So unfortunately, you know, that's the breaks, man. That's the ups and downs of being a professional athlete. You know, sometimes you can stay healthy and play every single game, you know, like Cal Ripken Jr., you know, has the record leading consecutive games, you know, or you
That's
can be
true.
like a Steven Strasburg that is one of the best pitchers in this era, and he just falls apart and then decides to retire early. You know, it sucks, but
Yeah.
you know, everyone's built differently. You know, everyone has
Yep.
different
I
ailments,
agree.
and you know, it all comes to fruition eventually, right?
Word. I agree.
So Trey Turner has been on freaking fire, man, for the Phillies, and it looks like the Phillies have pretty much locked up a wild card spot, and that is largely due to Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. Both of those guys are just on fire right now. There's no stopping these guys. Both of them are healthy. Both of them are hitting like above. They're hitting for average. They're taking their walks. They're hitting for power. Both of these guys are just amazing, amazing players, and the Phillies are definitely lucky to have them. Uh, Kyle Schwarber, you know, hitting over 40 home runs. He barely got to the 200 batting average mark, you know, which is
Crazy,
fine. If
bro.
you're hitting over 40 home runs, if you need to barely
Yeah.
bat above the Mendoza line, oh well, at least you're driving in runs, right? I don't like him
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
leadoff spot, but you know, whatever the Phillies are doing, it's working for
It's
them right
working.
now.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
same thing with what Jose said earlier. The pitching really needs to stay healthy. And I don't really think for the Phillies, it's really about staying healthy. I think it's more just more consistency because Aaron Nola has not been very consistent this year. Zach Wheeler has not
No.
been very consistent this year. Same thing with Ranger Suarez. We've seen all three of those guys in the, have their ERA in the twos with like, you know, close to 200 innings, 200 plus strikeouts, limiting walks. All three of those guys could be just amazing, you know, and
Yeah.
it just hasn't really been on they haven't really been on their game this season. Jose Velasquez says, "Who's the Phillies ace?" Well, for a while it was Nola, but then, you know, emerging last year and I think the year before it's been Wheeler, but both of them
Wheeler.
have not been really like, you know, the guys that you want to put all your trust in. Is it supposed to be Nola? It was supposed to be Nola, but the problem with Nola is pitching in Citizens Bank, where a lot of home runs happen.
It's tough.
He's one of those guys that just gives up a lot of home runs, unfortunately. Which you know, in pitching in Philadelphia, you know, ballparks like that are very hitter friendly, you have to maintain a high ground ball rate in addition to that strikeout rate, you know. And when you're throwing the ball high up in the zone and you have you have it catch a little bit too much of the zone, that's the problem. Is hitters can just tee off on that. All you need is just, you know, a decent swing on time and that ball just flies, which is one of the reasons why Trey Turner and Bryce Harper are probably hitting so many home runs also.
No.
uh, Josh Donaldson makes the Brewers roster. He actually made his debut on the Brewers a few days ago, and I don't really think he holds any fantasy value, so I don't really care too much to talk
Nah.
about Josh Donaldson.
He's just an
Pete Crow,
oldie.
yeah, exactly. Probably on his way out. I would assume that he'd be retiring pretty soon. Pete Crow
Yeah.
Armstrong got called up from the Chicago Cubs. Um, solid defender. You know, we in the first couple games, he's made some highlight plays. You know, running up against the wall, making some diving catches and throwing it back and trying to make a, you know, doubling up a runner because they thought that he wasn't going to be able to catch it. So I think the best thing about this guy is his defense. His offense has not shown up at all this season, unfortunately. So in redraft leagues, you know, I'd say go ahead and drop this guy if you have him. I don't think there's any value in keeping him in your lineups right now. There's a lot more outfielders out there, which we will talk about a little bit later, that you could pick up instead. Jason Dominguez has a torn UCL. What did they call him? The Martian? Do you know
The
why
Martian.
they call him the Martian? I was asking Tony why they call him the Martian the other day, and he didn't really have an answer. And I'm
Mm,
like, bro, you have him on your
only thing I
team.
could think of is like maybe because his talent is out of this world or something.
That's corny as hell,
I
man.
don't know. Hey, I mean, I know
Let's
it
show you.
is, but but that
All
sucks,
right.
man. They're really high on that guy. So,
Yeah, but they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway,
you
So
know,
maybe it's maybe at least it happened right now.
right.
Let's see. Jose says he's going through Tommy John's. Yeah, he's probably going to have Tommy John surgery. I don't know if that's actually been decided or not. Dude, there's a lot of players that are having UCL trouble this year. A
Dude,
lot. Way
it's
more than
freaking
usual. Do you
crazy,
think
man.
maybe it's the pitch clock? I mean, he's a hitter, but it
Well,
seems like there's a lot of
most of them are pitchers. I mean,
yeah, Shane
unfortunately,
McClanahan,
you know,
Jeffrey Springs,
bro,
yeah, there's
that killed my team right there, man. The whole McClanahan thing.
Shohei Ohtani, another one. That's three top starting pitchers right there that already have UCL damage just from this season, and this
Yeah.
is going to be Shohei Ohtani's second Tommy John surgery. So that's a little worrisome. I don't know about his future. That remains to be seen. And the Braves, speaking of the Braves, they are the first team to clinch the playoff spot, and they actually just celebrated their win, clinching the division in Philadelphia a couple days ago. A lot of Philadelphia fans were not too happy about that. I definitely heard that a lot when I was at work. Jose says, do you think they should start bringing up some prospects sooner? It's been a big thing this year that sparks up teams that are struggling. Yes and no. It's really hard to say because you don't want to bring up a prospect too early. Let's say like there's a guy that's top 5 prospect, but he's only 20 years old, 21 years old. You want him to get a taste of the majors first before he actually like makes the everyday roster. So I'm a firm believer in September call-ups before they actually get the call-up on opening day. I feel like they need to get their feet wet a little bit. They need to see some major league pitching before they actually like make the jump, the real jump from AAA to AA. That's my opinion anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. A lot of these teams they also do like the whole thing where they hold out, for the service time or whatever. A lot of teams do that as well. But yeah, I think September the call-ups, especially for teams that are probably not going to make the playoffs or whatever. It's that's why you're seeing everybody getting called up right now.
Yeah,
So they can
the
kind of
roster's expanded. Yeah, I believe
yeah
it used to be 40. Now it's only 28. That's such a big
yeah
difference, dude. They used
yeah
to
it
be able to
is
add so many different players for the playoffs coming up, and now it's only 3 extra because it's 25-man rosters, and then you go to 28. Such a
yeah
weird number, 28. I mean,
yeah.
making it even
That's fucking
30.
it's weird.
Why not? It's so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. September call-ups are, I think, how it should be. Um, unless you're desperate or something, and you need
Yeah.
some kind of pitching. Like the Dodgers this year. They were desperate for pitching, so they started calling
Well,
up a couple of guys.
there's one guy that I want to talk about a little bit later that he didn't get a September call up. He actually I think he made the opening day roster in 2022, and he struggled all season. And then eventually he got sent down to the minors, and it just wasn't working out for him. But he is surging right now, so we will talk about him a little bit later. I don't want to mention any names yet. All right, so moving on. Luis Severino out for the season, and just another pitcher with another injury. It sucks, dude. Freddie Freeman sets the franchise record with his 53rd double. That's crazy,
Crazy.
man. Freddie Freeman's only been on the Dodgers for what 2 seasons? Is
Two
this his
seasons.
2 seasons
It's
now?
third. Yeah.
And he already broke a record, a Dodgers record. That's crazy. Starting pitchers Max Scherzer and Yu Darvish are both out for the season with their respective injuries. Both of those guys have been kind of like up and down all season. So it really sucks if you're in the playoffs and you don't have Max Scherzer. But if you lost out on Yu Darvish, it was kind of a waste of a draft pick because of how bad he's been doing this season. But Max
Mhm.
Scherzer, that is a big hit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cubs utility man Jamer Candelario going on IL with a back issue. Cubs recall Alexander Canario. So the playing time for Pete Crow Armstrong, does that mean it increases for him? I kind of think it does because Jamer Candelario, they traded for him from the Washington Nationals. He was supposed to be like somewhat of an everyday player, and because that everyday player is out for a little while, I think it actually does open up some
Yeah.
space for Pedro Armstrong to get some more at bats, and maybe he can actually get his stride and get a little hot streak going towards the end of the season. The Cubs are probably going to make it to the playoffs. They probably have a wild card spot, and with Cody Bellinger hitting over 300 with tons of power, and there's some bright spots in the Cubs lineup. Dansby Swanson
Yeah.
is hitting now
Definitely.
too. Dude, Dansby Swanson's defense is just freaking incredible, man. I was watching
Yeah.
a play that he did the other day, and he's just so smooth, dude. He's actually that was one of the reasons why he got drafted so early was his defense.
Yeah.
Guys like him and guys like Carlos Correa that have that solid defense and the cannon of an arm. They're not the greatest fantasy players, but they're way better real baseball players than they are fantasy baseball players.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Um, all right, so that was all the news I have, and now we are going to go into waiver wire hitters, and we are going to give you at least one or two batters from each position. So, Javi, you sent me your list earlier. The catcher position. Let's hear your recommendation for a catcher pickup.
All right. So I, I've been out of the fantasy playoffs for I think the last 2 weeks already. So I haven't really done as much research on certain players or whatnot. Being as I'm out. But when you sent me, the stuff that we're gonna talk about, I was, looking through some stuff, and so for catcher, I have Elias Diaz, 46% rostered on Yahoo. He plays for the Rockies. Last 7 games, he's batting 360 with a home run, 5 ribbies, struck out 8 times, but his OBP is 385 and his slug is 560, which is not too bad. Catcher is a very scarce position. So I guess I feel like this might be people's last week, championship week playoffs for fantasy. I mean, if you want to ride a hot hand, he's definitely I would suggest him. He plays in Colorado, so that's a plus. And I think overall, throughout the season, he's been pretty decent. So that's my catcher for a waiver wire.
Yeah, I like Elias Diaz. I've picked him up and dropped him a few times, over the courses of the past couple seasons since he's been the Rocky starting catcher. I really like him when he is playing at home, which this whole week
Yeah.
he's been playing at home. That their whole 7-day schedule is in Coors. Next week, unfortunately, they're going to be on the road for the whole week. So I'm going to go a different direction, and I'm going to say Logan O'Hoppe, very young catcher,
Mm.
only 23 years old.
Angels.
He's only yes, Angels catcher. He's only played less than 50 games this season. He got off to a really slow start, but that was after undergoing surgery to repair a torn labrum in his left shoulder. But in 2022, O'Hoppe batted 282 with 26 home runs and 7 stolen bases and 447 plate appearances. The biggest takeaway that I have from O'Hoppe's 2022 campaign is his amazing plate discipline. 70 walks to 74 strikeouts. That is just
Yeah.
insane to me, dude. Especially as a catcher, you really don't see catchers with that type of plate discipline. They're kind of like
Nope.
all or nothing type of guys, or
Hmm.
like no bat appeal at all. So I
Yeah.
really like him for points leagues, especially because this guy gets on base a lot. He showed his potential last season in the majors when he batted 286 with a 375 on base percentage. The problem with last season is he only had 16 plate appearances. So it was a good audition, I'd say. And then,
Yeah.
the injury that he had in the beginning of the season, it kind of just held him back a little bit. But now he's looking good, dude. In the past few days, he's been raking. So Logan O'Hoppe and Elias Diaz, check him out in the waiver wire and choose one of those guys if you're looking for a catcher, or even if you need a utility man, because both of these guys play almost every day.
Yeah.
And all right, so earlier we were talking about um, I was talking about a guy that got called up in 2022, didn't have a September call up, in 2021. Uh, he struggled all season in 2022. It was really bad. He batted 203 with 8 home runs and 404 plate appearances. And this is Spencer Torkelson. Spencer
Mm,
Torkelson is my pick for first base. So if you guys need a first baseman, he had a terrible debut that ended with a demotion to AAA, but in 2023, he has shown a different Spencer Torkelson, very similar to actually 2021, which Torkelson batted 267 with a 383 on base percentage, a 935 OPS, 30 home runs, 77 walks, 114 strikeouts, and 29 doubles. Now, this season, Torkelson's expected batting average is 255. He has 28 home runs, 64 walks, 149 strikeouts. That's pretty high. But,
it is.
a lot of those strikeouts came in the first half of the season when he was struggling pretty bad. But lately, he's been kind of coming into his own, and 31 doubles this season. A legit power hitter with decent speed. He actually had some stolen bases. He is a batting average liability. I think that the highest that you can expect from him is about 250, maybe 255. But he's hit 28 home runs at 24 years old in his sophomore season. I think a couple of years from now, if he can get steady at bats, he has 40 home run potential. And we haven't really seen too many first basemen lately that can hit 40 home runs. Like we talked about Matt Olson, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's it. What other first baseman can really hit that many home runs? There's not really a lot right now.
Mm-mm.
It,
No,
it
not,
seems
not
like
that I
the
could think of.
power positions used to be like the corners, right? The
Yeah.
first
First,
baseman
third.
and second baseman, but we haven't really been seeing a lot of power from either one of those positions. It's all about the outfield, I think, lately.
Yeah, I agree, man.
All right, so that was Spencer Torkelson, currently rostered in 68% of leagues. So there's a good chance that he probably is already rostered in your league. Javi, you have another first baseman that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. So I went in the NL West. JD Davis, the Giants, 26% rostered. He's eligible at first and third. So that's, if you need utility, there you go. Last 7 games, he's batting 320. 3 home runs, 8 ribbies, 414 OBP with a 800 slug, which is insane.
That is
Um,
insane.
JD Davis is he's like old. He's like an older player, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think he's
Um,
28. Oh, he's 30.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really know him like that well, but doing my research today, like he was one of the hot bats that's going on in San Francisco right now. So yeah, I take a chance on JD, especially because he's eligible at first and third. Um, he's been pretty hot. So yeah.
All right, there you have it. Those are the first base positions. And I'm gonna go ahead and let you take the second base first. And I'm gonna let you talk about your second baseman real quick before I say anything. So
All right. For second base, I stayed with the Giants. Um, I went Wilmer Flores. 57% rostered on Yahoo. He's eligible at first, second, and third, which is, that's always a good. It's always a good thing. You could always, swap him out in different positions. Last 7 games, he's batting 296, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. 345 OBP, and he's slugging 407. Wilmer Flores has been around a lot of teams, but yeah, he's always been like very middle of the pack type of player. He does a lot of the little things. But his bat is real hot right now. So I would ride Wilmer Flores if you're in need of a second base or even a first or third, because he's eligible at those three positions.
Yeah, that definitely increases the value a lot.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to mention my second baseman first, because my second baseman and my third baseman are actually the same guy because they're eligible at both positions, and that is Willie Castro. Willie Castro is 36% rostered. It is so crazy, dude. I am on the Baseball Savant page right now. I am going to type in his name so that way I can get you guys the exact numbers of what he's done in the past, because he was with Detroit before he signed with the Twins. I'm not sure if he got traded or if he got signed by them. It must have been a trade because he only has 5 years of MLB service. Actually, no, 4, because he only played 30 games in 2019. So in 4 seasons with Detroit, he had a total of 18 stolen bases. And now in 2023 with Minnesota, he has 31 stolen bases in just 1 season. Where the hell did these stolen bases come from? 0 in 2019, 0 in 2020, 9 in 2021, and 9 in 2022. And now 31 in 2023. I don't understand why the Tigers weren't letting this guy run. His sprint speed is 82nd percentile. Yeah, the Twins are a little crowded when it comes to position players, but Castro plays every fielding position except for first base and catcher. Strikeouts are a little high, but he's emerging as a stolen base standout, which makes Castro very valuable down the stretch when there's not really much left out there on the waiver wire. So, um, I didn't want to mention this yet, but I feel like I'm going to have to because I'm already talking about him. He is eligible at second base, third base, shortstop, and outfield. So he is actually my pick at second base, third base, and shortstop. So,
Damn.
he's on a pretty decent hot streak right now in in the month of September. So a little more than 2 weeks, he's batting 324 with 2 home runs and 2 stolen bases. So I really like Willie Castro. That is my pick, second, third, and short. And Javi, go ahead and give us your third base pick.
For third base, we went with this guy from the Tigers, Matt Vierling. 6% rostered only. He's eligible at third and outfield. Last 7 games, 385 batting average, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 500 on base percentage with a 731 slug. I did the research on last 7 games because, like I said, this might be the last week of championship fantasy baseball. If you got one more week, then I just kind of base it off of the last week or so that the player has been hot. So
Play the hot
I don't
hand.
really know much about I don't really know much about Veerling. I just basically looked at the stats. So if you need, I mean, like I said, ride the hot hand. You mentioned Torkelson, who plays for the Tigers. Veerling, he plays for the Tigers as well. So ride the young guys, I guess.
I didn't realize that Matt Vierling actually had third base eligibility. I know he's an outfielder. Let's see.
Yeah, I checked it.
Oh my God, I'm trying to type and it's not working. All right. Oh yeah, third base and outfield. Wow, that's crazy. He was predominantly an outfielder with the Phillies last season and the first half of this season before he got traded to Detroit. Unfortunately, he's not going to be making it to the playoffs this season. If he was on the Phillies still, he probably would be. But yeah,
Yeah.
dude, like you said, ride the hot streak right now. In the month of September, 375 with a 512 on base percentage. That's freaking crazy. A 656
No.
slug, 1168 OPS. So, last 2 weeks, this guy has just been on fire, has a couple home runs. 7 walks to 10 strikeouts. I love the pick. And I already gave you mine. So moving on to shortstop, I gave you my shortstop also because I gave you Willie Castro for all 3 positions.
Yeah.
So who is your shortstop that you would like to talk about?
Bro, I'm going with an oldie but goodie. Chris Taylor, Dodgers, 33% rostered, second base, third base, shortstop, outfield eligibility. Um, 333 batting average, a home run, 9 ribbies, 385 OBP, 542 slug. I mean, what else is there to say about Chris Taylor? He definitely started off. He hasn't had a Chris Taylor type of season at all. I think it's been like the past 2 seasons he's struggled a lot. But he's turning it on when right now at the right time. They're gonna need him to show up, come playoffs. But Taylor's always been like a hot and cold guy. So right now that he's hitting the way he's hitting, and he's definitely eligible at all those positions. Like you say, the value is greater. Seeing that he can play all these other positions. So yeah, dude. And then it's the Dodgers, dude. They're an offensive juggernaut. So why not?
Yep, just like we talked about before, hitting is contagious, man. And when the Dodgers are hitting, the the top of the lineup all the way down to the bottom of the lineup, just like we talked about with the Braves, the Dodgers are another one with this amazing lineup that, when one guy gets hot, it just follows all the way through to
Like a
the bottom of the
domino
order.
effect, bro. Yep.
Yeah, seriously, seriously. All right, that was catcher, first base, second base, third base, and shortstop. Moving on to outfield. I don't remember who I sent you that I was actually going to take, but I think I changed my mind and I went with TJ Friedel, who is currently 50% rostered. Next week, he has 6 games in Cincinnati, which is a great hitter's ballpark. Not as good as Coors, but it is second, among hitter's ballparks. And he's going against some questionable pitching, other than Joe Ryan, which he faces on Monday. He has Kenta Maeda on Wednesday facing the Twins, but he's a left-handed bat going against a right-handed Maeda. So I think that he should be able to do pretty good. He's batting 333 with 3 home runs and a 1235 OPS in the last 2 weeks. So TJ Friedel in Cincinnati. I really like this guy. All right. Outfield. What you got, Javi?
Give me Jack Sawinski, from the Pirates.
Oh, he was almost my pick,
24%
man. I was
roster.
looking at him.
Yeah, and I remember at the beginning of the season, he was the hot thing, man. Like
Yeah.
everybody was jumping on the Lewinsky, bandwagon, but he took a dive just like the Pirates. They kind of slowed down after a hot start. His last 7 games have been crazy. 417 batting average, 2 home runs, 7 RBI, 500 OBP with a 792 slug. Man, ride the hot hand, dude. You know what the guy can do. We saw him, like I said, at the beginning of the season. Started off hot, cooled down a bit, but it looks like he's getting his stride back. Pirates are not gonna make the playoffs at all, but you know, they're still playing their young guys, so you know, take a chance on this guy. He's betting crazy right now.
Yeah, and he's been showing off some speed too. He also has 3 stolen bases in the month of September, and he is going to finish off next weekend in Cincinnati. Uh, Pirates are going to be playing in Cincinnati, so that is another good sleeper for you guys.
Yeah.
All right, pitchers. So I asked that there's 2 types of pitchers that you could be adding right now. You can go for the 2-star pitchers, which is great for next week, or if there's some available for the rest of the season. My pick, which is kind of both because he's a 2-star pitcher next week, and I feel like he's good for the rest of the regular season if your league goes that far. I believe we actually had the same pick, so you can interject whenever you like, and that's Ryan Pepio from the Dodgers. Next week he is versus Detroit versus San Francisco, and then the week after he's at San Francisco. So three good starts, 3 good matchups. I mean, he has a ERA with a 2.83 expected ERA. Since he became a starter for the Dodgers, he doesn't have a lot of starts. He's only has 3 starts since getting the call. But he doesn't really look that big on TV, dude. But he's 6'3", 220 pounds. So he's a
Mm,
bigger dude. And
yeah.
they were talking about him being like um, not vintage Clayton Kershaw's replacement, but Clayton Kershaw's replacement for the guy that Kershaw's been for the last couple seasons, because Kershaw's coming up on free agency. I don't know if he's going to sign with the Dodgers or not, but now with all these prospects that are coming up, as part of the Dodgers rotation, it could be the last time that we see Clayton Kershaw in a Dodgers uniform this season.
That sucks.
I know, it really
I
does.
uh I honestly hope that he decides to finish his career as a Dodger, man. I mean, why not? You know.
Yeah,
Um
maybe the Dodgers will give him, one more year. I think he deserves it. When he is healthy, he is a great pitcher. We've talked about him in the past before. He used to be, a really like he used to like pinpoint his pitches, and with a lot of break and a good fastball change mix since he introduced that change up. And he has become a great overall pitcher. When it was before, he was more just like a thrower, never
yeah,
really threw that hard. I think he topped out around like 94 and 95, which is basically
yeah,
like average now, but before you could count the number of guys that could throw 95 on one hand, but now it just
yeah.
seems like the whole league does it. And when you can throw over 100 miles an hour, that's when they consider those guys the flamethrowers. But
Right.
I really like Ryan Pepio. The only thing I don't like about Pepio is he only has 3 pitches, and as a starting pitcher, I really feel like he needs to introduce one more. If he could
Yeah.
get a secondary fastball or introduce a curveball, he throws the four seamer, the changeup, and the slider, and all 3 of them he throws a decent amount. He throws the four seamer 51% of the time, the changeup 34 of them, and the slider 15% of the time. If he could add just one more in there, dude, maybe instead of always a four seamer, you could add in a cutter or a two seamer. Have a little bit of movement either
Hmm.
inside or outside, or even add a curveball to it, or a sweeping curve. I would love to see a sweeping curve from Ryan Pepio, which I'm sure they are planning already. He's 26 years old. Clayton Kershaw learned how to throw his changeup around 26 years old. And I don't think it's too
Mm.
late for Ryan Pepio to add something into the mix. I feel like when you only have 2 or 3 pitches, that's great for a solid reliever. But as a starting pitcher, you need to be able to mix it up a lot more when you get, to the
Yeah.
the the second time in the lineup, third time in the lineup. A lot of times pitchers will be pulled and replaced in the game when they get to the third time in the lineup. But if you have multiple pitches that you could throw the batters off balance, that would be highly beneficial for a guy with this much talent.
Oh, definitely. He was actually my two-start pick. Because the matchups are very favorable. They're at Dodger Stadium. He doesn't have crazy, you know, pitching stuff, but looking at his stats, he's been extremely consistent. Like I think it's like his last 4 starts. I actually picked somebody else for a pickup if he's available. Um, Mike Clevinger, 49% rostered. Um, so his stats don't they're not eye popping or anything. Um, but his last 7, or the last couple weeks, he's 3-3 with a 3.43 ERA. Let me see, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the past 9 games that he's pitched, right, he had 3 clunkers, 3 very bad games. But the other 6 games that he had, 19 points, 24.5, 26, 34, 30, and 17 points, man. He's pitched at least he's gone seven innings pitched 3 times. He's pitched I think the lowest is like 4 innings, which was I think his last start. Um, but he's been between 5 and 7 innings pitched, which is great for a pitcher. Yeah, the White Sox, they're no bueno. But dude, he's been injured throughout the season. He came back. I'm not really sure how long ago, but dude, he's been really solid. If he's available, I would definitely take a chance on him, man. He has been very solid.
Yeah, next week he actually has a good matchup against the Nationals. So solid pickup for next week. Like you mentioned, he is not rostered in a lot of leagues, so definitely worth a pickup. Did you
Yeah.
have any other starting pitchers that you wanted to talk about before we get on to
No,
relievers?
no, it was just Clevy. Everybody else was I was kind of,
So
I
there's
wasn't
one
too
more
thrilled about it.
that I had in mind. He's a two-star pitcher. Not a lot of strikeouts, but elite ground ball rate, excellent at inducing soft contact. Two great matchups next week, and that's Javier Assad from the Chicago Cubs. The only downside I see from Javier Assad, other than his expected ERA, which is at a 5.04, his actual ERA is at a 3.10, but I think his expected ERA is so high because he induces so many ground balls. A lot of times playing for the Cubs, they have a really solid defense behind him.
Yeah,
They they steal a lot of runs away from opposing teams, which it's going to make his expected ERA a little bit inflated. But with that solid defense that he can count on, I like Javier Assad, especially for next week versus Pittsburgh and versus Colorado. And this is at home for him in Chicago. So the great thing is he's not pitching in Coors next week.
yeah,
So
that's a big plus.
yes, I really like that. So Javier Assad is going to be my second two-star pitcher for next week. And on to relief pitchers. The first one that I want to talk about is he is a decent pick, not really so much for points leagues because he's not really going to get wins or saves or holds, but in a categories league or in a league, even though it's at the end of the season, this guy is going to get a ton of strikeouts and probably going to be pitching a lot because he pitches kind of like in the middle of the games, and that's Matt Brash. He's not going to get a lot of save or holds opportunities, but a ton of strikeouts, like I mentioned, and the um he's on the Mariners, I believe now, and the Mariners are actually fighting for a wild card spot also. So um this type of pitcher that can, is going to pitch in a good team and try to push for a playoff spot. I feel like they're gonna use that to their advantage and put him out there a lot. And hopefully he'll be able to, if you do have to, add him in points leagues, then he'll score a lot of points for you guys and help lower your ERA. And that was my first reliever. I got one more that I have actually as a closer. But you had a reliever, right? That you wanted to talk about
Yeah, yeah. Going back to Brash, I think I talked about him a while back.
a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I think, yeah, he has like what 8, 9 wins or something, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's kind
okay,
of goes along with what I was saying. Like he kind of like pitches like maybe like he's the guy that they call right after the starting pitcher comes out if he needs to pitch the sixth, the seventh. Sometimes he even pitches multiple innings, which would help in a points
yeah,
league also.
yeah, that's not a bad pick. So I got Adam Ottavino, 39% rostered from the Mets. He's got a 117 ERA in his last 7 games, 3 saves, 9 strikeouts, uh, 0.91 WHIP, which is really good. Um, I mean, the Mets are not, you know, the team, but me and relief pitchers we're like water and oil. I don't really mix. I don't really mess with relief pitchers, so but looking at his what he's been doing in the last couple of games, he looks pretty solid. Like I said, his he plays for the Mets, which kind of sucks, but um He's been around for a cool minute too. He's been around a couple teams. This is about as solid as I can see a relief pitcher right now.
Yeah, we've seen Adam Ottavino with the Yankees. We've seen him with the Rockies, and
Rockies, yeah.
he's always been a solid pitcher. So I can dig that pickup. Next reliever that I have chosen is actually the closer for the Marlins. And the Marlins don't really win a lot of games, but they are also in the wild card hunt, and that's Tanner Scott, currently 66% rostered. So he is not going to be available in any deeper league, but he has 3 saves in the last 7 days, 5 saves in the last 2 weeks, and 7 saves in the last 30 days. So this is a crazy stat that I saw. The last time that Trevor Scott allowed a run was July 31st. So it's been almost
Wow.
2 months, almost 2 months since he has allowed
Crazy.
1 earned run. He had 3 earned runs in July, 4 earned runs in June, earned runs in May, and 5 earned runs in April. So the beginning of the season, he was a little bit shaky, but the last month and a half or so, this guy has just been crazy good. This weekend, hopefully he won't have a chance to pitch and give up earned run because he is facing the Braves, and that's not a good matchup for any pitcher. But next week he is going to be facing the Mets and the Brewers matchups, and then the week after it's the Mets again and Pittsburgh. So if you need him for the next couple weeks, I think that Tanner Scott is actually a very good pickup if you're looking for saves. When there's nothing else left out on the waiver wire, we got another comment from Jamal. Hey guys, would you start or bench Kershaw tomorrow? Looks like he threw a good bullpen session, but will they limit him? They will absolutely limit him. I don't think that he's going to be pitching more than maybe 50 pitches, 55 pitches. I don't think you think 5 innings?
I would say 5 because I remember last time he came off an IL stint. I think he was pitching great, and I think he topped off at 5 innings.
Yeah, Kershaw kind of scares me, man. Every single one of his pitches, the velocity is down. So, would I start him tomorrow? I would definitely start him in a points league. In a categories league, I'd be kind of scared that he would kind of ruin my ratios. My WHIP and my ERA. I guess it depends on how your week is looking. If you're already losing ERA and WHIP, then yes, definitely go ahead and start him. If you're winning ERA and WHIP by a small margin, I probably wouldn't.
No.
I can't trust Kershaw right now, which it's a very good thing that I did not trade Javi for Kershaw. I
I remember
actually
you wanted him so bad.
was it Justin Steele? I think I proposed Justin Steele for Kershaw, which is
Yeah.
crazy because Justin Steele is like the front runner for the Cy Young Award this season.
Yep.
That's crazy,
Damn
man.
it.
Yeah, could have had him, dude. Could have had him. Oh
Yeah,
well.
I know, bro.
Jamal also says picked up Tanner Scott this week. Digging it. Yep, good pickup, man. Just in case he does bad this weekend because he's facing the Braves, don't take that to heart. Hopefully you'll win your week and you'll make it to the second round or third round of the playoffs, whatever it is next week, because he has some really solid matchups coming up towards the end of the season. Jose Velasquez says Steele is cooking. Yeah, man. Justin Steele, when you see his overall numbers, he doesn't look like a typical Cy Young Award winner. But, in the environment that we had this season, there wasn't really a lot of consistent pitching throughout the whole league. So a lot of pitchers, like we mentioned Spencer Strider earlier, how 370 something ERA, like that. Spencer Strider is known as one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. Super high strikeouts, and he's an innings eater. What the hell happened to Sandy Alcantara? And Max
Crazy.
Scherzer and Yu Darvish and Justin Verlander. There's so many pitchers that we could just keep on naming that just were not any good this season, or were good for a little bit, but just very inconsistent. And Justin Steele's just been the
He's been like flying under the radar because people don't really talk about him, man. Which
yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good thing. You know,
Hey, but
you
he's
take
going
the
to be pitching
focus.
in the playoffs, so
Yeah,
ESPN's going to have some things to talk about Justin Steele.
hell yeah. I
Hopefully,
mean,
he
I
can
think
show good.
that'll give him that exposure, man. I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's a plus for a young pitcher like that to be flying under the radar, away from all, the Verlanders, the Scherzers, the Kershaws, Um, I think it just gives the pitcher more time to focus, obviously for his own, for himself and his team that, is currently making a playoff run. Dude, if I can't wait to see him in the playoffs, dude. If they get in there like that, that's gonna be great. That's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome.
dude, I am more excited about this playoff season than I have been in the past. There's so many teams that deserve to be there.
Yep.
This is the first time I've actually been very excited about the expanded playoffs. I hated it last season. I felt like there were too many teams that just didn't deserve to be there. But
Yeah.
this season, I mean, we saw with the Phillies what happened with them last season. I really think that the Phillies deserve to be there because they were like neck and neck with the Brewers, and I think half a game that kind of put them ahead and go into the World Series, and unfortunately losing to the Trash Tros. But this
Yeah.
season, I think it's going to be Braves and Astros going to the World Series. That
Dang.
is my early prediction. I really don't see any team beating the Braves. I think they are the team to beat, and I think they're going to uh, take another world championship back to Atlanta.
Yeah, they're the most complete team, man. And right now, all their pieces are getting healthy, and they're just hitting, bro. They're just hitting. It's like Jose said earlier. It's all about their pitching and their health. That's the main thing right there. But dude, you got Strider, Freed, Elder. Come on, man. Like it's not even fair. Morton, like that's
Yeah,
a complete that's a complete pitching rotation, bro. I mean,
they don't
hands
have
down.
a fourth starter, like a legit fourth starter, but you don't need that in the playoffs,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
each series, like each one of these pitchers is going to go out there on short rest. That's how it
Yep.
is every single season. So
Yep.
it'd be exciting, man. I'm hoping that the Dodgers can make it all the way to the World Series. It doesn't
Me
look
too,
good for
bro.
them because of the state of their pitching, but
Yeah.
that you can't deny the Braves, the young, exciting team. I think they're going to take it, and I hope they take it. If it's not the Dodgers, then I'm happy to see the Braves win again.
Uh, Dude, playoff baseball it's a whole different thing than regular
It's going to be
season
so fun,
baseball,
man. It's
bro.
going to be so
Yeah,
fun. I
I'm
absolutely
stoked.
hate living on the East Coast now because the games start so
I know.
freaking late, dude. I
I know,
hate that
dude.
so much. I
Well,
remember,
see, it's cool for me because like a Dodger game would start at 7 back in the West Coast, 10 over here. I'm at work, so I could just sit there and kind of,
yeah.
I'm awake, so I'm able to watch it, which is cool.
See, and when the Dodger game starts over here at like 10:10, I'm sleeping. I don't wake
Yeah,
up until 3 o'clock in the morning. Uh,
yeah.
but that might change soon. I don't know. So something's happened in the air work wise. I'll
Oh
tell you
shit.
a little bit later. We'll see. All right, guys. So we
Sure.
reached the end of our show. There is one final episode next week. For those of you that have leagues that go to the very last week of the season, we will be here again for you next week to give you our fantasy tips and waiver wire picks and two-star pitchers. If there are any two-star pitchers, who knows, but we will
Mhm.
be back here next weekend. Hopefully, you guys tune in. Thank everyone for joining the show today, and thank you, Jose and Jamal, for being in the comments and
Hit that like,
yes, please hit that
hit that like
subscribe button.
button.
And if you're listening on Spotify, please hit that follow button. We really appreciate it. And once again, thank you guys, and we will see you next week.
Laters.